Welcome to the Chump Block, episode 2. I am here, Derek Boyko, with my co-hosts,
Archie, Owen.
and we're here to bring you a little bit of entertainment during your Magic Online downtime. We have some really cool topics to go over today, not least of which will be the World Magic Cup, which just happened, actually, and is quite an exciting topic. Am I correct in that, I assume?
I think so, anyway.
Yeah, so there's some cool upsets, some cool underdog stories to go over. But first, we have a couple quick things that we want to throw your way. So, we had the Cracko Packo from last episode, so let's go over that real quickly here. This was our pack, which Archie generously donated to the Chump Block.
I gave up significant value for
And
this.
because it's your pack, I'm interested in what you think about this pack and what you would first pick.
My thoughts on this pack is it's generally pretty weak. There are a couple of cards you could first pick out of it. I'm pretty sure that there are 4 cards I'd consider first picking. The Adverse Conditions, because it's a powerful Devoid spell that's much better than it looks and has a lot of good tempo to it. The Eldrazi Sky Spawner, because it's pretty much the best 3-drop in the format in blue, and almost the best 3-drop in the format. It just provides so much value and so much extra stuff you can do with it. With the token and just a 2/1 fly. A 2/1 flyer for 3 has been good pretty much whenever it's been printed. So, yeah. The Outnumber it's a solar removal spell, it's 1 mana removal spell in a good colour. Not much else to say about that. And then the Evolving Worlds, because I really don't mind picking up Evolving Worlds quite early in this format. I think it's a super important card for a lot of decks, and it allows you to stay completely open.
Yeah, I totally agree with those 4. Those are the exact 4 I would pick out of the pack, actually, as highlight cards in this pack, which is interesting because there's not really any rare or any clear best card, quote unquote,
There's
out
no
of this pack.
Slam here.
I think I would probably slam the Sky Spawner.
I think we're both pretty in sync on that one, to be honest.
It's pretty close between Adverse Conditions, I think, though, and Sky Spawner.
Adverse Conditions is a nice to have. I'd like to have one, but I will play pretty much any amount of Eldrazi Sky Spawners in my deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Conditions kind of has one home, which is in a Devoid deck. It's okay in other decks, but Sky Spawner you can go into blue-black, blue-red, or blue-white with. It'll go in any of those decks. Perfectly fine. Doesn't need to be in a Devoid deck. So I like that.
Yeah, interesting pack at the very least. We'll get another pack at the end of the episode, but I did have a quick thing to go over here. I ran into an interesting situation in one of my Battle for Zendikar drafts this past week, so I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the episode screen for you. Pow!
My god, it's like
Lord.
magic.
Yeah, it's like magic. You get it, because that's the name of the game that we're playing.
Yes.
So, this is the board state. This is game 2 in my Battle for Zendikar draft of a 8-4 draft pod. My opponent has played 2 Warcallers and a Beastmaster in game 1.
Yeah.
So, I know that they are generally sort of a token deck, and this is our current board situation. So, I'm interested in...
Go, right?
I'm sorry?
Naya go wide, right?
Yeah. Naya tokens, Naya go wide. So, what do you think is the correct play? I'm asking both the audience and my co-host Archie here. So go ahead and tell me kind of what you would play here based on this board state, and I'll let you know kind of what I did, and we'll go over it.
So looking at the board state, we've got a land drop to make this turn. So we have 7 mana to play with, which is obviously important. The opponent, it might be a little hard to see on the screen, but the opponent has 4 cards in exile. From the Oblivion Sower and the Spell Shrivel that's in the graveyard. So we have the Ruin Processor is active. Having said that, the play I would make this turn, I would play Fathom Feeder and Windrider Patrol. My reasoning being that even if my opponent untaps and plays a Tajuru Warcaller and gives his team +2/+2, I still get to block something with the Oblivion Sower and if I really need to, the Fathom Feeder, and I take 6 if that happens. If not, I get to untap with an Oblivion Sower, a Fathom Feeder, and have a Wind Rider Pro that I can start beating down and scrying into win conditions and ways to deal with Warcaller, etc. And it just gives you a clock, which I think is super important to have a clock. You can also just untap and play a Ruin Processor and gain 5 life and put a 7/8 in play, which is like you can pump 1/1s up a bit, sure, but if the opponent doesn't have another go wide spell and then a pump spell, then it's kind of hard for them to do anything. On future turns, you also have Grave Birthing to make a token out of nowhere to block. Fathom Feeder again will start drawing you cards. I think by playing 2 spells in a turn, you make the more mana efficient play. But that's just where I'm at on this.
So my play's quite a bit different, which I think is interesting with this, because this board state, it looks like it could be fairly simple, but there are multiple plays that you can make in this turn, and it could vastly affect how you play the game. So what I did was I attacked with Oblivion Sower.
See, I wasn't even considering that. I was thinking about blocking.
So first thing I did was I attacked with Oblivion Sower. My thought process there is if he has a Warcaller and he blocks, he, first of all, has less creatures to attack with. And second of all, I need to win the game at some point. So getting in this damage early could definitely affect what I'm going to be doing later in the game, as far as how aggressive I can be. So I immediately attacked. He didn't block at all, took the 5. That makes perfect sense since I know he has Warcallers in his deck. So now I have 7 mana and a tapped Oblivion Sower. So what I thought of here is I can go Wind Rider Patrol and Fathom Feeder, but I'm not going to be activating Fathom Feeder next turn, regardless. So it's sort of like I'm dropping 5 mana, because I'm not really using the ability on the feeder at all. So what I did instead was I played the land and I played the Rune Processor, and returned one of his exiled cards, gaining 5. The reason there is even if he Warcallers next turn, his biggest creature is only a 5/4. Or, no, I'm sorry, it's a +2/+2, right? So it's a 5/5. So I can just block it with my 7/8 anyway. So at the very least, or very most, I guess, I'm only taking 9 damage next turn. And with the 5 I'm gaining, I'm both gaining a bit of a board state as well as a bit on the life total race by making this play. And then I can still Wind Rider Eel Feeder next turn with the intent of drawing a card the turn after. So that was my thought on this. It turns out I played the Processor. He played a Hero Agoma Fed, giving all of his team indestructible, and then just attacked me. And I blocked 3/3, took 3. And then I played Patrol Feeder, and he Rolling Earth both of them.
Uh-oh.
And just killed them both.
I didn't.
Rolling Thunder, yeah. Not Rolling Earth. Those are 2 different cards. But yeah, he Rolling Thundered both of my cards and killed them both. But I still had a pretty good board, and I was a little head on the life total race. So I drew a removal spell for his hero, and then he just conceded the game. Okay. Which was a little weird. But
only slightly.
Yeah, I felt like being a little bit less passive in this game was going to help me get ahead on the racing situation when I know he can top deck a Warcaller at some point and make that race not as good for me.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, my thought process was that the Wind Rider Patrol was going to do most of the racing for you.
Mm-hmm. But I was a little afraid of removal with the Wind Rider. I figured even if he pumped his team, the Rune Processor was going to get me there anyway. And
I mean, had you game 1? Had you seen the Rolling Thunder?
I did not see Rolling Thunder or Hero.
Okay.
So I did not know about either of those cards in his deck.
So yeah, that's an interesting board state. It's always interesting to hear how different people do different lines. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what chat thinks about this.
Yep, so go ahead and let us know your thoughts on this puzzle and what you think would be the best play, but those are our takes on this board situation, and yeah.
Welcome to this week's Tidings. On the slate for now is the World Magic Cup, which is just finished a couple of hours ago as of this recording, which was a victory for the Italians this year, which is pretty cool. Marco Camiluzzi, Andrea Mangucci, 2 names you might recognise out of that team. with a I think a pretty diverse top eight. I don't know about you boys. You had four pretty traditional Magic powerhouses, as well as four, I would say, underdogs. I'm gonna go with underdogs.
Underdogs
You've
make
got,
sense, yeah.
yeah, I mean, France, Japan, Denmark, Italy, all traditionally strong Magic countries with players at the top of the pro game. Certainly the Japanese team was so stacked.
Yeah.
I mean, we said it last episode, but Yui Watanabe, Kenji Samura, Ryuichi Tamada, like we did him a disservice. We said we'd heard of him. He made the finals of the Pro Tour, the last Pro Tour. So yeah, some quality Magic players in that team. But on the other, just
I was putting either France or Japan to take the whole thing, and they were actually matched up immediately in the quarters.
in the quarterfinals. Yeah, I mean, I had Japan
Yeah.
for sure. But on the other hand, you've got the Thailand team, the Guatemalans, the Austrians, and the Scots, who now the less said about the performance of the English and the Welsh at this tournament, the better. So they're
Well,
British.
at least United States went. Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, on the upset front, both the United States and Canada crashed and burned on day one.
Yeah, that could have been
which
better.
was surprising. I think there was some.
Yeah.
Both were very good teams.
The U.S.
very good
team
players.
was, I think, right on par with Japan, to be honest.
Yeah, they maybe a little less, but not that far off.
Not by much. Yeah.
Not by much at all. And then the Brazilians had a strong 4-0 start in the tournament, but then faded pretty rapidly, which is unfortunate. I think they had a good team as well. The finals were pretty cool. Ended up with the Italians winning, which is I think fair enough. They played some very good Magic throughout the tournament, from what I saw. I didn't manage to catch all of it, but I don't know how much you saw of all their matches. But
I caught a little bit of the top 8. So, like Thailand, Denmark was a very good watch. Thailand really got together as a team and helped each other out, and I was rooting for them, man.
yeah, gotta root for the underdogs, right?
I was hoping. They did overtime on the amount of work necessary to get where they got, and yeah, they're definitely deserved for second place in this tournament, I think. So, kind of came out of nowhere, but very good team, very good play.
Yeah. The other team I was rooting for were the Guatemalans, with I think the best fashion sense in the entire top 8 for sure. I mean, the Scots did go full kilt. All of them went full kilt, so you cannot knock that. But the Guatemalans had some pretty awesome.
I believe Panama was
sense.
wearing like traditional demon masks. That's pretty cool too.
They brought them along, yes.
Yeah.
In the hand luggage.
Yeah.
Which must have been, interesting at the
I'm
airport,
sure it was
I guess.
fine.
You've got your, I know your usual. You've got your passport. You've got like a sweater or something in there, and then demon mask.
Yeah, the demon mask is incredibly important for playing Magic.
Now,
For sure.
sir, what are you going to be doing with this on the plane, sir?
Oh, I'm going to be playing a demonic card game based around removing souls and murder. Oh, right.
The usual thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. Well, here you go, sir. Here's your mask back.
But sadly, the Guatemalans fell at the quarterfinal stage, as did the Scots, as did the Japanese to France, it was a 2-0 affair, which was kind of surprising to me. But
Japan had some pretty unlucky flood and screw that match, unfortunately.
Yeah. The Thais managed to beat France, going all the way to the final, but sadly fell to the Italians. It would have been it's been kind of the last couple of years actually. You've had a real underdog get to the final and then just not quite get there. You had the Greeks last year, didn't quite get there unfortunately. But yeah, I think it was a good tournament. Certainly the unified standard was interesting. Ataka Red was everywhere, kind of as it was no surprise to anybody. But the surprising decks was certainly Team of Megamorph. I don't think anyone saw Team of Megamorph come anywhere, but
yeah, that is not a deck that was on my radar at all.
People built Esper Dragons, Ataka Red, and needed a third deck, and kind of I believe a lot of the teams tested together. I certainly know the Americans and the Canadians, and I think the Brazilians tested together. I think they all came up with a team of Megamorph decks to put Windswept Teeth in, basically.
That sounds right.
And yeah, it was really powerful. Play Collecting Company, Deathless Raptor, Savage Knuckleblade. Just a lot of just good cards. And,
yes. So there were 5 Atarka Red decks in the top 8, and 6 Esper decks.
Yeah.
In the top 8. Most of which were Esper Dragons, but there was an Esper Control. Which could be basically about the same deck, to be honest, but...
I mean, it's
slightly different.
Close, maybe. But yeah, that was this year's World Magic Cup. What I think is the most cool thing is have 4 Guatemalans who've got Pro Tour invites.
Yeah.
4 ties for us. It's a way onto the Pro Tour.
That's what happened to the Danes.
Yeah, and they really made the most of it. And certainly certainly I think some of the way some of the Thai players played at a Pro Tour, if they do some good preparation.
Yeah, totally agree. Unfortunately, we're not going to have too many big tournaments coming up anytime soon near the end of the year. So this is our big last hurrah until we move on to 2016. But quite a nice way to end the year, I think. I definitely like the World Magic Cup. There's a lot of sort of team spirit and pride and stuff that come into it, which is kind of fun in the competitive scene.
Yeah, and I agree.
You get to see a couple formats you never really get to see, like Unified Standards. So
yeah, that's cool. That's always cool. And we also got some interesting previews for Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yes.
We had the Wastes and Kozilek, the Great Distortion, finally spoiled officially, even though they had been unofficially spoiled for quite a while at this point. Wastes, just for people's information, is just another way of representing colorless mana. And the diamond symbol on a card just means you have to pay it with colorless mana. So you cannot use any colored mana. So you can't use red, green, anything from a basic forest or island or swamp. You have to use colors, so it could come from one of the pain lands. So Battlefield Forge, Land One Wastes. If you tap that for a single colors, you can use that, or you can use a Wastes, or something like, for example, Temple of the False Gods, which adds 2 colors to your mana pool when you want to cast an Eldrazi when you've got 7 mana in play, which is kind of handy for casting Kozilek, which needs those 2.
But what I find really interesting, and which was brought up to me, so with Oath pre-release coming up soon, are they going to provide tournament organizers with wastes as basic lands for people to put in their decks, or is it going to be more like snow mana where you have to get it in your pack and put it in your deck?
It is going to be like snow mana.
Okay.
They've confirmed they will be cards in packs. So if you pick up a Kozilek, you are going to have to pick up these lands. If you're going to need to look for things like Hedron Archive or Spawning Bed or the uncommon blighted lands in Battle for Zendikar. You're going to need to be looking to pick up those to be able to cast these cards.
So I believe, and they did officially announce that it's going to be like that. So you just have to get the cards in your packs in order to play wastes. My other quick question on that is, do you think that they will include wastes in future sets, or is it specifically a Zendikar?
They have confirmed that wastes will rotate with Oath of the Gatewatch.
Okay. Will they continue to use the symbol? That's the next question.
That I have no idea about. I haven't seen anything on that. They might have answered it. I don't know, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I don't think they've answered it. It's very interesting.
Because I know on the expeditions, so they spoiled Forbidden Orchard, I believe, and Ancient Tomb as expeditions. Mm-hmm. And the Ancient Tomb has Diamond or whatever we're going to end up calling the waste symbol. I'm not sure, as it's add 2. So whether that's just an exclusive thing because it's a Zendikar expedition, I don't know. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about it yet, but I think we'll just have to wait and see.
But yeah, it's very interesting. There'll be more spoilers out. I don't think we'll be able to get a spoiler episode out, but hopefully that is some excitement to you. And that's as much as we got out of the World Magic Cup. I would go back and rewatch the top 8 at the very least if you missed most of the rest of it. There's some very exciting games going on within that top 8. And
yeah, for sure.
All around a pretty good weekend for Magic.
I agree. So that's about it for this. On to the deck of the week, which is something I know is close to Derek's heart.
My digital heart. Yeah.
Indeed.
Welcome back to Deck of the Week. So we have a very interesting little brew that Archie and I have been testing at our F&Ms and on Magic Online, which is based around a little 9-drop sorcery called the Great Aurora. You might have heard of this card from Magic Origins. It has a lot of text on it, so let me read that to you real quick. It is 6 mana, triple green, off to a good start. And sorcery speed, every player will shuffle their cards from their hand and all permanents they own into their library, draw that many cards, and then put any number of lands into play from their hand, and then exile the Great Aurora.
I mean, it's a 15th pick draft card.
It is a 15th pick draft card. The land might be better in draft, to be honest. But there used to be a card, multiple cards actually, very similar to this. One is Warp World, which had its own deck based around it actually, based around just wiping the board and coming up with a whole new board and hoping you have a better board than your opponent and then killing them. And then there was also a card called Upheaval, very well-known card and very powerful card. And the Great Aurora is very similar. The whole point of the deck that is based around this is to gain a large mana advantage, since you need to cast a 9-drop, and then also use that advantage to get way ahead on board after you Great Aurora, wiping the board, setting your opponent back into the Stone Age with 7 cards in hand. So that is what this deck is attempting to do. So how do we do that? That's a good question. Most importantly is the ramp spells. Ramp being anything that will increase our mana. So we have 3 Rattleclaw Mystics, which is a decent 2-drop as well as a decent morph, since you can unmorph it to ramp 2 mana for a turn by unmorphing it and tapping it. There's Nissa Pilgrimage, which is just a 3 mana ramp, gets you Forest. Explosive Vegetation gets you 2 lands. Nissa's Renewal, incredibly important. It gains you 7, which is really good in the racing situations, and gives you 3 basic lands. And then Animus Awakening, which is an X spell, and you reveal the top X cards of your library and put all lands, not basics, all lands into play tapped. And if you have Spell Mastery, which is at least 2 spells in your graveyard, you untap those lands. So, tons of ramp here, but...
A whole lot of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of ramp, but... what are we going to do with all the ramp? That's the main question, because we can reset the board, and, I mean, that's fine and all, but then, like, why are we ramping just to reset the board? So we have Retreat to Hagris. This is, admittedly, not a very good-looking card on paper. It's a 3-mana enchantment, Landfall. You can either give a creature +1/+a Death Touch, which doesn't really come up too much in this deck, or you can drain 1 life from your opponent, which is, they lose a life, you gain a life. So, in multiples, this card gives you a huge win condition in actually killing your opponent when you're constantly ramping. So, like, if you go Retreat into Explosive, Drain 2, into Renewal, Drain 3, they're suddenly already at, like, 15 or 13, depending on if they're using fetch lands, which gives you a pretty good slow win condition, but a way to eventually drain your opponent out. There is the... Planar Outbursts, which are both a way to control the board, as well as a way to create attackers with the Awaken ability of making a 4/4. There's Green Warden. Green Warden's an incredibly important card. It's 6 mana, 5/4. When it enters the battlefield, you can return a card from your graveyard to your hand, and then if it dies, you can also return another card and then exile it. So it's essentially like an old card named Restock, but with a 5/4 body, which you can also attack with, which is cool. And then we also have Secure the Wastes, the white fireball, so to speak. The cool thing about Secure the Wastes is you can play it early sometimes, and then Green Warden back your Secure the Wastes, and play it again to get multiple tokens to kill your opponent. And we also have a set of man lands. So that would be the 2 Shambling Vent and the 4 Lumbering Falls, which also work pretty well in conjunction with the Planar Outburst Awaken ability, since you can make really big man lands. So that is basically the list for the main list. The rest are 3 Dark Petitions, which is a tutor. Dark Petition lets you search for your 1-ofs like Secure the Waste, as well as any ramp spells you might need, or Wrath to clear the board. It also has this wonderful Spell Mastery ability, which is a free Dark Ritual, free 3 black mana, as long as you've cast 2 other spells. And they're in your graveyard. So that's the main deck list. Archie has taken this recently to an FNM, and either 3-0 or 4-0'd.
3 wins and a draw, which was enough to take it down.
Close enough for government work.
Close enough for government work. Yeah, it was fun actually. I enjoyed playing the deck. It generated many smiles from around the room, which is always I think the height of amusement when you can play a deck that makes other people smile. Even my opponents got a bit of a laugh out of it, which is always the best. But saying that, they had to take it seriously because I won matches. The draw I had was against Blue-White Awaken Control, when I looked at my planar outbursts and went, these don't deal with 13/13 Awaken lands very well.
No,
Shockingly.
they don't at all.
But you just chump with Secure the Waste tokens forever and ever. But yeah, so that was amusing.
I've been having a lot of fun with this deck as well.
Yeah, it just does something that other decks in Standard don't do. I mean, I like playing uninteractive decks. I am somewhat known for I played Boggles in Modern. I played a Sensi combo in last Standard. I like doing things that are different on a different level to what my opponents are doing. Maybe not a different level, but on a different angle of attack. So instant speed combo, or infinite combo, or your removal spells do nothing, or in this case, I'm just gonna cast my spells, and if you can't kill me in time, I am gonna kill you. I think my favourite match might have been the match against White-Black Life Gain, where I think I used up over 2 games 4 sides of a life pad.
Oh wow!
Because we were both gaining 1 life at a time so many times.
Through opposing like Retreat to Hegras and stuff?
He had Calastria Healer.
Oh, okay.
Calastria Healer. So it was
nice.
March from the Tomb. That was the deck.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a matchup.
It was just that was that. I'm glad I won 2 games to 0, because I probably would have been another draw. This deck it can be slow. You do a lot of shuffling. You do a lot of searching. Certainly in paper, like Magic Online does all that for you, which really helps. You don't have to do any, you don't only shuffling. You've got other people around, and so that helps. I'm yet to be convinced that I would take this deck to a tournament.
Archie, you can save time shuffling if you just put white bordered basics in your deck. It's easier to find.
No.
Wow. Doesn't like my suggestion. Holy.
No, that's just not factual.
But it's just correct. It wow. Doesn't like white bordered lands. I see how it is.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't take this to a PTQ. I most certainly would. I love decks like this. So the cool thing about this deck, as Archie was saying, is that it's very non-interactive and what that means is that you kind of just ignore whatever your opponent's doing and just do your own thing, which is super fun because your opponent's like playing a bunch of 2/2s and attacking you. You're like, okay, whatever, gain 11, go, ramp. You just kind of ignore whatever the heck they're doing, wipe the board, and then just kill them eventually on like turn 17. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, my worry is Esper control with this list.
Yeah, we do have a sideboard. The sideboard helps a little bit.
About it.
So we have 4 counter spells, 1 dispel, 3 negate. That's to help out with the control matchups, like you said, Esper control, as well as sometimes you side in like negates against some of the burn decks and that type of thing. Just sort of a good all-around answer against other counter spells like Stubborn Denials and those types of cards that are going around.
Negate's also just a good card to have against random decks. Like, it sounds harsh to say, but if you go to your local FNM, it's entirely possible you will have someone turn up playing a homebrew that's enchantment control, or Sphinx's tutelage is still a card, and the deck still exists. So having cards that I think having negate that is a card that deals with non-creature permanents is the deck deals with creatures pretty well. You've got 3 Wraths, 2 Green Wardens, Great Aurora. Like, dealing with creatures isn't the issue, and you can even board in Ugins, which we'll get to in a minute. But having negates is pretty important, just to be able to also just have an answer to stuff. Nothing specific, but just stuff.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my interpretation.
So, why do we have Infinite Obliteration in the board?
The ramp mirror, because you need to be able to take away your opponent's Ulamogs. Because they're really good against you.
Turns out Ulamog's a good card.
Who knew? And they can generally ramp a little bit faster than you, as well, which is the main issue, because they're running more ramp.
Yeah, we only kind of have like 2 answers to Ulamog. Either one of the Great Auroras, or the one of Blighted Fen. And that's about it. So.
And neither of those are good, because you probably have to have no other creature in play when you Blighted Fen the Ulamog.
The Aurora can be okay, but they can just redraw it, obviously.
They can redraw it, and you have to have enough mana in play when they played it and exiled 2 things.
Yeah. So, Ulamog's an issue. Infinite Obliteration definitely helps there. It's also really good in the Rally matchup. It turns out that the Rally deck only does anything against this deck if they play Nantuko Husk. So, if you just get the Nantuko Husk out of their deck, they kind of just don't do anything.
Yeah, for most decks, when they board in Obliteration versus Rally, they're naming Pseudoport Cutthroat. We don't care about Pseudoport Cutthroat. We can gain enough life. It's the Nantuko Husk, we're just unlikely to be able to block it.
Yeah, we don't really care if they bring a bunch of 1/1s into play at all.
Yeah.
Or drain for 6. That's not important.
That's not important. But yeah, so that's the bit of the difference here. Dragonlord Dromoka, burn, kind of mid-rangey creature battles as well. She does really good in those.
Good against
matchups.
Esper Control too.
Fine, she's fine. She's another card you can bring in.
Yeah. It lets you resolve your spells when they side out their removal after game 1. So
I also don't mind her against Jeskai, because they are siding out removal. Although interestingly, a lot of the time they don't have enough slots that they can side out, so they've probably still got at least like Crackling Doom in the deck, which is a decision you have to think about whether you think they've still got that or not when you bring in Dromoka, because otherwise you're just giving them targets.
Yeah, that's fair. We also have Ugin and Ulamog. I'd say you usually side them kind of both in at the same time, but Ugin is there for the All is Dust negative ability, usually, to wipe the board, as well as just give you sort of a long-lasting threat that you can use to sort of, bolt your opponent 3 times or multiple times for 3 damage to try and whittle down their life total.
Yeah, it's your trump card in the mid-range creature matchups. Like,
yeah.
You're good there anyway, but it just makes you better there.
Yep. Ulamog, you'll side in against any of the ramp decks. You'll side it in against anything you think you can go long game. Jeskai, yeah. Just a good all-around beater, good late game win condition. And then we have 4 sort of interesting cards. We have 1 Retreat to Kazandu, which is the green retreat that normally no one would ever play. But
you gain 2 life per land. That's all you need to understand. With that one, it turns your Nissa's Renewal into get 3 lands, gain 16 life. No, not 16. 13 life. 13 life. Gain 13 life.
Plus your retreats usually, like the other retreats to Hagra and yeah.
Which against mono red is basically game over.
Every once in a while, you pump a bunch of counters onto a Shambling Vent or a Lumbering Falls too, and kill your opponent. I've done that before as well.
Yeah, also on Shambling Vent, you also then can activate it to gain a bunch of life as well, which is always sweet.
It's been really good in the burn matchups and the quick aggro matchups. I found it much better than something like Jotty Offshoot anyway.
Yeah, and then Archie Cleric, it's burn. It's very simple. You need to be able to get to the late game with this deck. I think, judging by the fact that we're playing 9 drops, that's fairly obvious.
It's just 9 mana. What's the difference between 9 mana and 8 mana? I don't understand.
Surprisingly little in this deck.
In this deck?
But
In Magic, yeah, there's a
given
huge
that
difference.
Ataka can Goldfish on turn 3, you do need. Wait, is it turn 3? Something like that. Turn 3, turn 4, anyway. You do
Yeah.
need to be able to live, basically, and that's literally it. You need to be able to live, because if you can cast like a Rushing Cleric into Retreat to Hagra or Retreat to Kazundu and then Explosive Vegetation, you're generally in a pretty good spot. You can just about live long enough to do something.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So you can sort of shift the deck and how it plays based on how you sideboard very often, which I think is really cool.
I agree.
It gives you a ton of flexibility in a big tournament. So that is why I am all for this deck and super excited about it. But that's our deck tech for the deck of the week, and we'll go ahead and move on.
Welcome to this week's flavor text. This week we kind of wanted to look at not the mechanics of the cards, but what's actually happening on them, which is, we're all used to playing with them, but sometimes there's something a bit deeper going on from a story perspective. So we kind of wanted to look at the good, the bad, and kind of the cool from Battle for Zendikar this week.
The good, the bad, and the super rad.
I mean, it is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off with kind of a pair of cards. First up was Ugin's Insight. It's a pretty standard draw card, but it's kind of got a couple of cool different aspects to it. Firstly, when you look at the obviously the flavor text is kind of the most obvious bit. You've got Ugin speaking to Jace. It's a pretty big story moment. This was actually picked out by Wizards as one of the marquee story moment cards in the set, where Jace travels to the Eye of Ugin and meets Ugin and kind of learns more about the Eldrazi and the Hedron network and how all that works. It's even though we only see Ulamog in this set, it does hark back to Emrakul and Kozilek, which if you take a closer look at the art, which we have here, you can actually see in the vision that Ugin is giving Jace. You can see Kozilek up on the left and Emrakul kind of on the right around Ugin's horn, which is a nice little touch, I think. But actually, even the mechanics of this card tie in kind of story-wise. You have scrying and drawing, which is very Jace, but you have the highest converted mana cost among opponents you control is kind of tied in with the Ugin, because Ugin's 8 mana, which is pretty high. If you get to scry 8, draw 3, you're probably doing pretty well. I'd say I don't know that you'd probably get a couple of good cards off that usually. In fact, that's genuinely better than Dig Through Time.
I really do dig the story between these two cards, because it sounds like, just as somebody who actually dislikes Jace as a character, this makes me, give a little clap for him. So I'm going to read that real quick. You can obviously read on screen, but you speak to me of the threat of Ulamog, but do not forget they came as 3 Eldrazi. And then when you go into the archive, you've begun to understand the Hedron's true purpose, said Ugin. The Eldrazi can be imprisoned. Ah, and how did that work out last time? That is such a good. Oh, that's such a good quip.
Yeah, it's great, and this is kind of the second card of the pair we were talking about, Hedron Archive, where it's the same conversation continuing.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of neat. You've got the same moment being shown on different, like slightly further down the line in the conversation. Maybe you're not 100% sure, but I think that's cool, personally, and I think that's good storytelling because it ties in what's actually happening with some story and some pretty rad art by Tyler Jacobson on Ugin's Insight, I have to say.
Yeah, agreed.
So, moving on to kind of the bad, this is Zilliport Cutthroat. It's a card I like. It's good in draft. It's it's got some really pretty damn cool art. I really like the Jason Rainville art on this. It kind of depicts a pirate, from what we know of Zilliport from previous Zendikar block, that there's a Zilliport Enforcer. It was a port. It's a port town. You got pirates and mercenaries and all this lot around. However, that's all really cool. The flavor text really lets it down, I think, anyway, because Eldrazi, try walking through Zulaport at night with your pockets full. Now that's dangerous. Doesn't really fit on a world where the Eldrazi are literally eating it alive.
So, I'm imagining this flavor text is like some jerk in a bar talking to his buddy. They're both drunk. And he is saying this to his buddy. Yeah, Eldrazi, whatever. There's this guy out there who, like, punched a guy and took his purse. Okay.
Yeah, it just doesn't really fit with the tone of the rest of the set. Maybe that's what it was meant to. It was meant to try and be a bit funny, but I don't know, it just didn't really work for me.
The other weird thing is, how is this an ally? There's no flavor here that says this is an ally. If anything, this should be just a rogue who, like, preys on the allies by sitting in the dark underbelly of Zulaport, stealing their money. How is he actually helping the cause against the Eldrazi? That doesn't make sense to me.
He's helping the cause of Black White Life Game Boys. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. I guess.
That is, I think, a case where we see here probably mechanics over flavor, to be honest.
Yeah, not a big fan of the flavor of this card. I would give this card maybe like a 2 out of 5 flavor.
Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, the fact that our example for bad is 2 out of 5 says that this is a pretty good flavor set, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the cool, I think, anyway, is Shrine of the Forsaken Gods.
This card's really hard to see in the original. Like, if you're actually looking at the card or playing online, it's really hard to see what is going on. But, yeah, this is a really cool stories card if you want to continue.
Yeah, I mean, if you show up the full art here, or the enlarged art anyway, you can see the 3 Merfolk deities who are all referenced in the original Zendikar. You have Ula on the left, Kosi on the right, and Emeria in the middle. Now, this art, I think, makes it pretty clear that they're actually badly remembered versions of the 3 Eldrazi Titans. So, Ula for Ulamog, Kosi for Kozilek, Emeria for Emrakul. And you can actually see in Ula's helmet, you've got Ulamog's bone plate, you've got the tentacles down the bottom, and kind of the bony protrusions on the armor. Cozy has Kozilek's collar and the kind of the spikes. You see the crown. If you look at the new Kozilek art, he's got that crown on it.
The spikes were sort of misremembered as a sword that he was holding backwards, which is kind of interesting.
Yes.
I like that little detail.
And then Emeria, you've got the shape of the wings, kind of shows the hood of Emrakul. I guess it's a hood. I don't know. Emrakul's kind of a giant, big, flailing, massive tentacles and stuff. But you can see the tentacles from the cloak, I guess. At the wiggly, cloaky bits of Emeria.
They misinterpreted the giant head as these huge angelic wings. So, Emeria, Emrakul, was misinterpreted as this giant celestial angel from the sky. And it's weird that they remembered the tentacles, though, as sort of like a weird ribbon from...
ribbon, that's what I was looking for.
Because you can see the ribbon on the front, sort of attached.
Yeah.
And they're misremembering that as these like weird ribbons around the bottom as like a clothing decoration for Emeria. And you see the same thing sort of with Ula. Ula was the god of the sea, right? So the little tentacles on Ulamog were shown as him being able to like conjure up like an octopus or a kraken or something like that, and that's where those are coming up from the bottom. And you can't really see this art on the card very well, so it's really cool that you have this nice wallpaper blow up of the image, which shows you so much more detail into the backstory of Zendikar, even though you're just looking at this one card's art.
Yeah, and I think Daniel Lundgren did a really good job with it, for sure. It's it's got just the right amount of detailed touches.
Yeah, these are exactly the type of cards that I love to see in Magic. I remember when I grew up, the first thing I would read was the flavor text, and I'd look at the art of every card before I actually saw what it did. So this just speaks to my inner child. It's great.
Yeah, I love that this is there for you to find if you want to go looking for it, and if you don't, then it's just a card, and it has mechanics and text. They've moved back to putting story on the cards, where they have recently shied away from it and have been doing ebooks and using the Uncharted Realms articles on Wizards, the Wizards homepage, which I would thoroughly recommend you go read if you are interested in the story, because that is where you will get a lot more details about these moments, rather than, I guess you could call the cards snapshots at this point.
Yeah, basically. You used to be able to read the entire storyline, which we might go over in a future flavor text.
The Weatherlight Saga.
Episode. Weatherlight Saga, for instance, you can definitely just read through card for card, and that's something that we might do in a future segment. But now, instead of just being able to see the entire story and lay out each card individually to go through it, you get sort of like a quick snapshot of the story here and there, intermingled into the set, and that's fine, I guess. It still adds a bit to it, but if you dig through the set and you look at these cards, maybe in your next draft, when you're looking at a card to pick, you'll remember this cool story, and that's something at least.
Yeah, you can think about, where these cards are in the flavor of the set.
Well, that's it for this week's Chump Block, episode 2. Thank you everybody for watching and or listening to the episode this week. We're going to go ahead and throw up the Cracko Pack right now for you to take a look at, so you can give us your thoughts on it for next episode, and we'll make sure to go over it like we did at the beginning of this one. We're also going to be gone for the holidays, so you'll get a break from us for at least a few weeks up until the new year. But we will be returning with a vengeance to... Just
like Kozilek.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. As long as we're not returning with a hunger, it is the holidays, so we don't want to be as hungry as maybe, Ulamog was.
Yeah, yeah.
Delicious dinner.
Delicious Zendikar.
What?
Zendikar's delicious, man. Have you not tried it?
Oh, God. Well... Thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you for watching.
And we'll go ahead and play the outro music and see you next episode.
See you next time.